All right, welcome to another video back to back, right? So, last minute edit here. This is actually a tier list from the FD card store. I did get this tier list from Can You Say G's Twitter, but I did ask him and he said it's from FD card store. I just want to make sure that's clear. And we aren't really here to critique their tier list, but we like having the clan tier the decks here and just kind of going over them for whatever their opinion was on it. And it's right at the beginning, right? We see Narukami Vanquisher being just S tier, right? And I'm sure like a lot of people would agree with that and like how fast the deck is and how consistent it is, especially with a lot of decks being nerfed. Along with that is these not all these decks are available in English yet. Like Chronofang, for example, like we're still waiting on the next set in English, but they have it over in Japan. And they were able to test that out a lot. Let's just jump right into it. So what are your guys' open thoughts like first seeing this?
First, I think Narukami is like guaranteed S tier, right? Like Narukami is so strong. All the other decks are like a whole tier underneath. I would put like Narukami at S plus and have everything else at A. The deck just does so much. It draws cards, multi attacks. It's XL deck. It has bind, which a lot of clans can't even deal with that anyway. Narukami is like a whole another tier.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Vanquisher's skill is just to be able to bind not only on the field but then from hand. It's just a lot, and the fact to pump up your units 10k. I was like, all right, this Vanquisher is obviously here to stay, having such like a massive impact. Like even with Show Oda 2, you have still so many cards that make up for it, and with Vanquisher coming in, that's another card to overlap all the bind skills shenanigans and. Like there's no stopping the Narukami hype train.
Yeah, exactly. And it has a lot of multi-attack, right? And another thing that's super great about it is it just feels so free. Like calling Rising Phoenixes for free, calling stuff from hand is almost free for multi-attacking. When a lot of decks they have to like pay, they have to have like some super restriction, right? And they're also hitting for big numbers. So super good, right? You can't really argue with that. Riviere got knocked down to A plus, and deck's still good. I think so, right?
Oh yeah.
And then of course with the next set coming out with the new set with Vanquisher is more Shadow Paladin support. So and that didn't get hit on the ban list. It's just gonna be super good. Now they're also like holding Claret up there pretty high. I'm not sure about that, but it is a Shadow Paladin deck, so that they always have a good engine with the main. It's Swordbreaker.
Yeah, I think they picked it so high too because of the tops. Like over there was topping even when Riv was at full power. Like it still had some tops, and then since everything else got hit down, they're like, all right, player might be potential tier 1. You know, like tier 1.5.
Yeah. Like I'm looking forward to see how Shadow Paladin players are gonna go with either Claret or Mordred, just because like. They're from the same Shadow Paladin clan, just like they have their archetypes that's like pretty specific with some of the cards they need.
Yeah. And then Revonn's here. Now, I don't see oh, there's a Maelstrom deck, but Revonn's here, and he's just super fast, so he kind of did what, of course, like pre-ban list decks wanted to do, is hit turn 3, go first, and just Revonn them and to 6 damage. So it's a little strong. Right, but it does get stopped by sometimes a damage trigger, maybe, right?
Oh yeah, like Revonn still suffer from some of the same, I guess, consistency and like struggles that Aquaforce has gone through as a whole. It's just that Revonn is pretty reliant just being like a good card just to have gain power and crit, gain Trinity Drive. I was like, okay, so Revonn has maybe a little less requirements to get online, which makes it a bit of a faster deck than Maelstrom. So I'm looking forward to see how long Revonn's actually going to be in the format as a competitive option.
I think Revonn is just so fast compared to everything else that like that's the reason why it's still meta, because everything else kind of slowed down and they're trying to play the grind game and they're trying to make advantage. And Revonn's like, I'm just gonna kill you, call all your cards and just swing at ban. So I feel like I'll be around for a while, essentially.
Sure. Chrono Fang's also up here. Like, listen, I haven't played much Chrono Fang, but what I've been hearing, it feels more like a sort of a Gauntlet Buster plus deck, where you're hitting for massive crits, spiking your opponent, and making it kind of difficult. So, I'm really glad they're showing a little more variety, especially with Gear Chronicle having no support for like over a year, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think Chrono Fang has a decent matchup against Narukami just because, like, oh, I was going to bind that stuff anyway.
well, actually, Chrono Fang doesn't like to bind. It's more of Mystery Flare likes to bind.
Oh, Mystery Flare. Oh, rip.
Yeah, which is rip, but that's apparently this is an F tier deck, but you know it might come up like a few tiers if you're against Vanquisher, which you probably will see a lot, right?
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
If we can live through that, it does have a problem. A lot of these decks do have a problem with any rush decks, right? Especially decks that take a while to get running, and that's why you might see a lot of these decks at the lower tiers that just take maybe an extra turn to get running. And if they don't have their key pieces because they had to use them to guard against these higher tier decks, right, they might have issues. So, yeah.
I think what's also interesting to note is that out of the top 6 decks that they have, 4 of them are Force decks now, which is pretty crazy. I mean, we're just in the like all Excel meta, and now we have 4 Force decks in top 6. So it's interesting to see if Protect makes a bounce back now that everybody's playing Force decks. Maybe Protect could sneak in there.
Yeah.
One day.
I really believe, like, out of all these decks, anything could, like, win a local, you know, anything can do well, like a fest or a regional, right? It's just, we're, like, looking at, like, the small, minute differences of something that can get through, or maybe you could invest in the future, right? But that's not to say whether that's better or worse. Like, for example, here we have in the middle, like, a lot of Bermuda decks, right? Coral being a step.
Oh, yeah.
I thought wasn't the case, but I guess maybe it is. Maybe I've been seeing a lot more Coral for like spike potential decks. It seemed to be a little more consistent now that you can actually have an extra turn against most decks to get going. So
yeah, Coral does a lot better in this slower, like advantage style meta. Coral's pretty good right now.
Yeah, and it's really great to see that just you can probably bring like most of these literally B tier and above decks to any local and win it. That's from what I can see, right? And then you might have a little more of an interesting time if C below. So yeah, but
yeah, I always hope. Oh, I'm sorry.
okay.
Like I was just hoping that Pacifica would be, I guess, standing out more from the pack just because of like from the support cards that she had and some of the skills. But like I am pretty interested to see like Melody at the tail end of B along with the unique deck.
Yeah. Oh.
It's fun though.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting too that your deck is down here, Sage. They have spikes and D tier. I don't think it's that bad to be honest.
Yeah, I mean it's a little rough right now to be honest. You know, I think what people were building with it, to be fair, was good for before in Excel meta, but now that things have slowed down, maybe the deck can also slow down a little bit too. Be more a control deck. So again, it's not the most popular deck, so not a lot of people play it. And this is based mostly in Japan, so you assume a lot of these lower tier decks aren't even played as much in Japan, so you may not even see them, right? People are usually pretty quick on picking up the meta stuff, mostly because it's something new and fun, right? But
yeah, I definitely think spikes though in this new like Force style meta is like at least B. I think it competes with
maybe.
some of those up there. Yeah.
Maybe
moving force markers is pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, all the retiring too. It's a lot better in this new meta, being able to remove stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting that there are so many decks and so many variants of it now that some of them kind of overlap. So you can see like a lot of decks. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but you'll think of a certain deck, and then you'll be like, well, that's just this, but not as good. Right. For example, Dimension Police. Now it's focused on grabbing more grade 3s with Thylander, being able to guard with those and getting crits. But at the end of the day, you're going to be finishing off people with a superior ride with Great Dayusha. And Riviere does the exact same thing with the superior raid, right? But just with more multi-tech. So it might be like the same sort of thing, just a little better. But
Yeah, for sure.
that's how that looks. And yeah,
I also think God Hand is pretty good too. Like all other matchups, I think God Hand is able to just have fun and reign free now.
it seems
Oh
that
yeah,
here,
like
B tier stuff B tier and higher is just kind of everything can do anything against anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I guess what I like about God Hand, I've played the deck for a while, and just the fact that you can get over like, oh, defense trigger, that's no problem. You still gotta drop an extra 15k shield because God Hand alone adds 10k, doubles the front triggers, and then you have all the other support cards that add 5k for every unit that's on board. So, like, there are times where yeah, you can usually just like two to death somebody just because like, oh, I hit the front stand need and I had my restands.
Yeah. And then also looking at now, I'm just looking a little closer. The A tier decks and above seem to just be a little more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh yeah,
like maybe not Ezel as much, but Maelstrom is more consistent. Basically, Aquaforce and Shadow Paladin and Narukami, because the new grade 1 that came out that lets them grab a grade 3 off the top of their deck, right? Makes it all just so much more consistent. And just looking at that, people have more options, right? And maybe these B2 decks aren't as consistent because, let's say, you ride the wrong target, or you're really just relying on like a front trigger
Yeah, that's true.
to go through, right? So I think that's what they're really looking at. And then the decks at the very bottom seem to be very inconsistent. Like, for example, Mystery Flare is a very inconsistent deck, but so can be most Link Joker decks can be inconsistent. That's what they have on here, right? So it's very reliant on what you ride at that point.
Yeah, I think the few misses in C tier though would definitely be Great Nature. I think Great Nature is definitely up there. Deck is pretty consistent. It has powerful turns. It has advantage. Like it does a lot. And same with DI. I think DI is really good, especially in this new Force meta. The matchup spread is just like off the charts.
Yeah, it's great. And is that to go into also a new tangent, which is premium? Premium's kind of similar to what it was before. Not a lot has changed, and maybe we'll have like a video of that in the future. But as far as premium goes, it feels kind of the same as it was before.
Yeah, it feels like a lot more of the same.
We'll see what Chronojet brings. Maybe they can add one more clan to like a B tier, right? So
yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about this?
I mean, I'm surprised that they still put Ezel on top in A, like above everything else. Ezel, I haven't seen Ezel in forever.
I haven't seen it either. I'd like to see it, and it is like super. It is it's not even that high roll of a deck. It's just rushes down your opponent. I think it's because why they put it here is because a lot of decks slow down, right? And this is the deck that doesn't slow down.
It still has it, yeah.
It still has the problem of damage triggers that any Excel deck has, right? But I guess against decks that aren't as fast, it can deal with it and also get a hand advantage because it abuses Excel too. So that's that, yeah. I hope in the future, with future support, they look at decks. Well, restricting things, actually. It's kind of funny. People are saying restricting, like, let's say, gifts with units. So, if you run, let's say, Wonder Ezel, for example, or, no, not Wonder Ezel. If you run Ezel, for example, you can't go Excel 2, because you can't abuse Excel 2.
That would be interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And
that would be an interesting move.
Yeah, and I can see them balancing decks out like that. Basically, you can't do this. But it'd be pretty neat to see something, but it's okay to have imbalance in any game because that's okay. It's a little fun, and I just hope people don't feel bad if their clan doesn't get good support on the next runaway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
because it's gonna happen.
Yeah, there's some clans falling by the wayside. Like Murakumo barely got support before. Like Narukami was like okay, but it still had some decent support over time. And then from random like Genesis, and then even the clans that were in the tech booster, which Mega Colony, Tachikaze, and Spike
The
Brothers.
feels bad booster, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like it's good. It's good to see. Like, all right, we're gonna just group these three clans together just to see like what sport we can get them. But I think everyone usually has their turn to have like their time in the broken spotlight. Like, I think in the A tier in particular, I'm just staring down aggravating just because it's just like, oh dear God, the Mega Blast, all that cost. No normal Guardian ever.
Yeah. So, I'm really curious to see what it is in the future. With Springfest, I still think you're gonna see, if you're like very serious, you'll see a lot of Vanquisher. You'll see definitely Revonn, and then like pretty much any A tier above deck for any serious players, right? But because of that, you might see decks that counter those, which is pretty good. For example, you might see a little bit more Gear Chronicle. You might see a little bit more decks that can actually go even faster, like Aggravate, or just decks at plus heart. So I'm really curious to see that.
Yeah, I think teams for sure. A plus is looking pretty solid right now. Like I think if you're going into Team League, you want to bring one of these decks for sure. And Narukami and Revonn are probably definitely the top two. And then third one could be whatever force deck you want to play that day, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
There's 2 exiles in force.
Yeah, basically.
All right, yeah. R.I.P. Protect, right? Hopefully they have something. Because this is, I misplay Protect, to be honest, right? So
Yeah.
So an Imperial Daughter was all the way up to S tier.
Oh, I miss those days, man.
That was my first deck I ever played.
Yeah.
Imperial Daughter is good.
Yeah, she's a beast.
All right, seems great. I'd also just like to go to Andrew again. He wanted to give a shout out for
Vision tournaments. Every Tuesday bi-weekly. The link will be in the description. If you need any help, I'm Andrew NYC on Discord, and I'll help you out with any registration problems.
All right, sweet. Right, this is Sage from Vision, right, and then Andrew and Alphonse from Vision.
Peace out, guys.
Peace out.
Take care. Woo.